AITA for going back on letting my husband adopt my daughter because he cheated? I, 50F, am dying from esophageal cancer. I likely will be entering hospice sometime in 2024. I just want a final holiday at home. My husband, James, and I have been married for 3 years but have been in a romantic relationship for a total of 5 years. Besides my 10-year-old daughter, Amy, my husband has 3 kids of his own. My daughter is actually biologically my niece, but I adopted her when she was 1 because her biological dad died from an overdose and my sister had done something horrible for which she is still sitting in prison today, and Amy will be well into adulthood before she gets a shot at parole. But in the eyes of me, everybody else in this life, and I'd like to think the next, Amy is my daughter. And for a while, I was thinking that James would be yet another example of how biology doesn't make a parent. I thought we were a family and that he was completely devoted to me and Amy, just as I was to his kids. We spoke of adoption, and the first time we spoke of it was 2 years ago. Then I began getting sick, and this fell by the wayside. Then 2 months ago, I found out that James had a one-night stand with a coworker 4 years ago. We were having a rough patch and hadn't been sleeping together, true, but he blamed it on being drunk. She later quit without notice. But she decided to find me online and expose him after they wouldn't take her back at the restaurant. I had a feeling that James was hiding something after he stormed off from our fights. Now I'm dying and find myself stuck in therapy with this. He claims he hasn't cheated since, and I do not have that suspicion after that period, but I don't know what to think anymore. He begged me not to divorce if only so he could take care of me and also for his health insurance. But now all he's been doing is agonizing about adopting Amy. But all I'm thinking about is he had this one-night stand, but there must have been flirting beforehand. And he was the taken one, so he should have had the impulse control and respect for his partner. I don't like what that says about his character and feel he isn't as sorry as he ought to have been. During our conversation, he said he loves Amy and that he admits that he cheated, so he's a cheater. But that mistake doesn't take away his care for Amy and her welfare. And said that he deserves any punishments with regards to our marriage, but I'd be punishing Amy because the state would be here the moment I died. I know that if I were healthy, I would have either divorced him or put my energy into therapy. And I have spoken with a lawyer and am considering divorcing him because I know that would have been my first stop if I was still healthy. I don't want to deal with a cheating husband. The fact that he did this makes me worried about whether he'd again let his impulses cloud his better judgment. Whether that would extend to letting an unsuitable partner in because he sees sex and nothing else. James is upset and says that my parents are dead and the only relative I have is on welfare with 5 kids. But I want to rescind my offer because I don't trust him anymore. AITA? He keeps saying, do this for Amy. Update. AITA for going back on letting my husband adopt my daughter because he cheated? I have read a large majority of your comments. Some of you have been very compassionate, but I am also astounded at the amount of people who think that my last act as a good woman is to turn the other cheek and laud a cheating husband. A lot of comments also dismiss me for the sole fact that I am dying, and it seems those are more of a reflection of the commenters' lack of emotional fortitude. I hope they treat their own dying relatives with more introspection. But I am not here to complain, just wanted to give an update. It's only been less than a day, so obviously nothing is definite, but here goes. With regards to my relationship with my husband, I've decided, dying or not, I have to stick to my original stance that if I were healthy, we'd likely already be halfway through a divorce because I cannot stand infidelity. I don't know if my previous post makes it clear, but I had been speaking to a lawyer about divorce. As I said in one of my comments, we probably have around $50 to $100 before payday, sometimes our checking accounts are as low as $13. I do thank my husband for allowing me access to our checking, even when it came to seeking legal counsel. I also know that our state has a lot of self-help legal aid resources. All this is to say, I intend to file for divorce. There are also hospice facilities that offer care for people who cannot really afford hospice, and divorced or not, that would still probably be me. If things get bad enough, I'm fine with not burdening others and just going to the ER and letting them take it from there. I defended the foster adoption system because I myself am an adoptive parent. But I also value family, so I have reached out to my cousin who, contrary to belief, does make an income, and not necessarily a bad one. Actually, only $3,000 less than what my husband makes depending on tips. She just gets assistance because of having 5 kids. She said that if she needs to take in a blood relative, and get guardianship, she will do so and that she knows the resources to help her care for my child. She recognizes this is sudden and a lot to ask, but she feels it's her duty to put in her best effort on my behalf. She said she cannot promise anything beyond a bare-bones life, or that she won't struggle greatly in the beginning and question her decision occasionally, but that she'll do her best if the thought of my daughter being with her stepdad upsets me that much. I don't think it's fair for me to stay with my husband after denying him this, and I know he resents me for this. He claims that our state favors biological relatives and that he'll fight regardless. I'm okay with that, but not okay with his assumption that my cousin would melt down and give my daughter up for adoption when that is not who she is. I'm no longer asking for judgment but hope that my intention to give my daughter to a blood relative instead of a foster system would give some of you peace, as it gives to me. Again, our state strongly favors biological relatives, so hopefully my daughter will be in a stable situation before I die.
AITA for calling my SIL Eugenics Annie, and not apologizing? Normally, my wife Laura and I, both in our late 20s, don't let this kind of thing get to us, but me, white and really look it, lol, blonde, blue-eyed, etc. Laura, South Asian, dark hair, eyes, medium dark skin. We just welcomed our firstborn, Ian, now 2 months old. He's a delight. Since Laura announced her pregnancy, my SIL Jean, 30s, my brother's wife, 2 kids, has not shut up about mixed-race babies. She's constantly bringing up that our kid will be dual heritage, how they're the most attractive race, every time. After he was born, she comments on his actual looks, speculating which race he looks like each time she sees him. The other day she even commented that he got darker and that his eyes darkened, very normal in all babies. FYI, Jean, unlike my family, grew up in a diverse area. It's not ignorance. We aren't crybabies taking offense to everything. My family are white village folk. Most are curious and excited. Sometimes they ask ignorant questions, and Laura especially is very gracious. We lived for a while in a region weirdly unhinged about race mixing. Specifically, so well-meaning ignorance is a breath of fresh air, lol. Hell, even in our current area, after she started showing, we were stopped in the street a couple of times and told we'll make gorgeous babies. We don't mind, it's well-meaning, albeit intrusive. Plus Laura was a model and is conventionally attractive, so that may be a factor. Not with Jean. She explicitly brings up Ian's heritage and keeps trying to analyze his features, and asking others to do it too, even after we said multiple times to stop reducing Ian to racial traits. She keeps saying she's being complimentary. The last straw, yesterday, she posted a pic of Ian from the family group chat on her FB, friends only, and asked her mates, you guessed it, which race he looks like. And they were freaking answering. I thought that was deranged, and commented verbatim, don't forget to bring the calipers to dinner, Eugenics Annie. We have to commemorate baby's first skull measurement. I know Jean isn't a eugenicist or even consciously racist, and it's a mean thing to say in public. But we tried so hard, implicitly, explicitly, full explanation in private, never listened to. I was worried for when Ian is old enough to understand, wanted to stop this kind of talk now. So I snapped. Laura, friends, and most family thought my comment was funny, but Jean and my brother are mad, calling us easily offended, saying we're making light of racism, and refused to ever see us until I post an apology on her FB page. A couple of other relatives say I'm being harsh too, and cruel, and that she meant well. AITA? I acted in anger, yet can't help feel my rudeness was justified. It's my infant son. He's 2 months old, there aren't any freaking racial traits, he looks like a baby. Still, did I go too far? Don't blame you if you think I'm trolling. Even I'm confused whether people can actually be this much of a freak about something that's none of their business. Edit. To the person who asked why Laura hasn't said anything, I can't seem to reply to your comment, but Laura did say it several times to Jean and in general. She liked my comment. She explicitly spoke to Jean about this more than once. I want to keep her out of this specific comment drama because I know, and she agrees, what I said on FB is something I can and will easily get away with. Maybe a few people will think I'm a jerk. But if she made that joke or even responded approvingly to my comment, it would be seen really differently. As vicious and targeted rather than a guy making a crass joke about his relative. Hell, even my own friends wouldn't have found it that funny and well-deserved, let alone strangers who only know Jean, who's great at turning on the tap. Not speculating either, it's happened before. Sometimes in the past when I've stood up for Laura in race-related situations unrelated to family, some people crapped on me for white knighting. Less common. Or assumed she put me up to it. really common even with small things. So that's why I made the harsh comment and she didn't. I hope my explanation makes sense. I don't want it to read like I'm white savioring my own kid.
AITA for not helping a woman who had a baby with my ex-husband get survivor's benefits. My 43 ex-husband Duke, 54, and I divorced because he habitually cheated on me. We were divorced a little over 2 years when he died in a motorcycle accident. I paid for his funeral because of my daughter, 15, and despite everything, he was her father, and I didn't want the state to bury him. That was 4 months ago, and my daughter is doing well. I applied for survivor's benefits for her shortly after his funeral and have been receiving monthly payments. Yesterday, I received a phone call from my caseworker at the Social Security office informing me that a woman called claiming that she had a 3-year-old son by my ex-husband. However, the woman had no proof the boy is actually my ex-husband's, not a signed birth certificate or DNA test. The caseworker asked me if I would be willing to allow my daughter to do a DNA test to prove this child's paternity. I refused. I did the math, and this child was definitely conceived while I was still married to my ex. Furthermore, at the time of conception, I had gone through a very traumatic hysterectomy with major setbacks that nearly killed me. I suspect I know who this woman is, and she definitely knew my ex-husband and I were still married. I'm mad as hell, and I'm not sure if I'm doing the right thing by refusing, but I was humiliated enough by my ex when he was alive, and I feel even more embarrassed now. Update. AITA for not helping a woman who had a baby with my ex-husband get benefits. First of all, I'd like to thank everyone for their comments and advice. As I stated in my edit on the original post, this happened over a year ago, and for whatever reason, I wasn't allowed to post it on the thread I originally tried to. Now, to the update. About a month after I found out about this little boy, I did indeed tell my daughter, who is now 17, by the way. She was shocked, as you can imagine, and very hurt by her dad's actions. I explained to her the full situation, and she didn't want to do it then. She said she needed time, so that's what I gave her. Incidentally, she has been in therapy since before, during, and after the divorce. Her father and her were never close because he had a kids are to be seen and not heard mentality, which caused a lot of problems even when we were still together. The woman who had an affair with my husband was a work colleague, friend. We all worked together at the same place. We both still work there, just in different areas. After I got the call from my caseworker, several mutual acquaintances approached me and told me that she wanted to sit down and talk with me about her problem. I thought about that for a few days and ultimately decided to meet up with her. We met at a coffee shop by our job on a Saturday. She told me that she and my ex started out as friends at first. He would give her advice on how to deal with her other 2 kids' dad. She said very quickly it turned into flirting and hanging out and eventually a full-on affair. By this time, he's telling her I was getting suspicious that something was going on, and she was already pregnant. She told him about the pregnancy, and he told her he wouldn't be leaving me but he would assist her with whatever the child needed. She was hurt and angry but stuck with the situation as she was already struggling with the 2 kids she had and needed the help. She went on to say that he was very much in love with me and that she was jealous of me for having him. Not one time was this woman remorseful. No apologies. Nothing. I asked her, did she even care what their affair did to my daughter, and she replied no because she had enough on her plate dealing with her own children and, quite frankly, didn't care about mine. That's word for word, by the way. At this point, I told her that I have informed my daughter about her son, and she is currently not interested in participating in this scenario. She got outraged by that, telling me I have to make my daughter do this. That she is only part-time at our job and her kids cannot survive on her income alone. I told her she was a witch. That if she even felt a little bit of guilt, I might have been able to talk my daughter around, but her lack of respect for my daughter's feelings is why I won't. I left her there, yelling at me as I walked away to my car. She has since quit working at our job. Over the past year, I have addressed the situation with my daughter, and she still doesn't want to do it. I've told her it's her decision either way, and I support what she wants. My ex's parents are both deceased, and his one sister is dead. He has an older brother, but they hadn't communicated in decades because of the brother's addiction issues. I tried to find out about him when my ex died, but I couldn't find anything. My ex was dead 2 full days before the police finally got in contact with me. It was a shock. I never hated him. I hated what he did. There is a difference. I guess that's the update. Share your thoughts and don't forget to like, follow, share, and comment at Reddit_bros for more Reddit stories.